that we have a longer version of the speakers' talks, and their PowerPoints are all online. And if you cannot get into them, didn't get notified that they're available, just let us know, and we'll send you the link. This is kind of an experiment for us where, we decided that we'd try to put most of the speeches, most of the talks up in advance, but then we had technical difficulties, and so we didn't get them up really in advance. Nevertheless, we put them up there so that the speakers in this online session could just do a very quick presentation, and then we'd have more time for discussion and hopefully get some useful feedback, because this is the first time that we've put all these things together in one session, and we're looking forward to the feedback. Let me start with this. Okay, so official title has the Chinese agriculture transition to an innovation-based agriculture, R&D, technology, innovation, and productivity growth. I just wanted to start with one slide of saying, well, how does this session on Chinese agricultural innovation fit into a conference on the bioeconomy? I was sort of mulling this over this morning, and it seemed like there are at least three big points that we should think about. And the first one is that China is a huge market for bioeconomy products, things such as genetically engineered corn, soybeans, canola, cotton, as well as biofuels and many other agricultural products and bioeconomy products. Second, China invests more in agricultural research than any country in the world, and more government funds in agriculture research than any country in the world. And it exports agricultural inputs around the world, everything from generic glyphosate to herbicide tolerant and BT genetic engineering traits, which we'll hear about a little bit later. And then it's the #1 source of greenhouse gas emissions. And if you've had a chance to participate in any of the other sessions in this conference, you'll know that this has been a big topic. But at the same time, the Chinese government has made international commitments to reduce pollution and greenhouse gas emissions, and is a major source of technology to replace fossil fuels. So there are many interactions. And unfortunately, at this conference, since our time zones are so different, we haven't gotten as much participation from China as I'd like, but we're always trying for more. So come back to hear about this and also participate in future conferences. So to start off with, I just want to mention some summaries of the sources of agricultural growth using Sunling Wang's recent paper. We see that agricultural growth from 1985 to 2007 was about 5% annually, of which 2.7% was from productivity growth, another 2.4% from input growth. And so what we're really looking at here today is the sources of agricultural productivity growth. The public sector research and innovation, which a number of people have looked at in the past, but we're updating these numbers. The extension systems, in which there's been a lot of growth, but I don't believe there have been many papers that really connect it to directly to TFP. Rural education, which we won't talk a lot about this time. We've sort of left rural education to Scott Rozelle and the work that he and his colleagues are doing. And then the thing that we're going to emphasize a lot today is industrial research and innovation, what private firms and state-owned industrial enterprises are contributing. Just to mention the rapid growth in Chinese agricultural R&D, both private sector, the black line, and private and SOEs, and the public sector. And innovations from the industrial sector, these are just a couple of quick illustrations. Food processing has skyrocketed. The pesticide industry, which I've squeezed together that chart because in order to give you an idea of the number of patents, the patents in the food processing sector about 3 times as much as the ones in pesticide industry, which I'm just giving you an example, but it's really exploded. And so part of it, and likewise, number of seed varieties registered by the private sector has grown very rapidly since about 1999. So a lot of these policies, a lot of the industry innovations have been encouraged, or we believe encouraged, by various policies of the government. Part of it is the investments in public sector research and innovation that support industry research, spillovers through publications, sales of patented technology, public-private partnerships. There are research and production subsidies to innovative firms, things like special economic zones, strengthening of intellectual property rights, and then expanding the state-owned enterprises into market leaders, trying for them hopefully to get economies of scale to induce them to do more research. And then, of course, the most dramatic thing recently was a government-supported purchase of Syngenta by the state-owned enterprise ChemChina. So what we're doing today is trying to put this all together. So we're going to lead off with a session with a paper or summary of paper that Haiyan Deng has been working on for a year or so now. And she's going to talk about what the contributions of these various types of public sector research, other public investments, and innovations by private firms have contributed to agricultural TFP. Then we're going to talk about industrial policies. As I noted here, we got into this with the data and modeling help from Anthony Powell, who is at Peking University at was then as we started, and now it's in Arizona State. And for that, we're going to, this is my old slide, sorry. We're going to start off with Yan Hong, who's going to give us sort of an overview of the methodologies. And then she'll talk about the machinery industry. Then we'll have Changxin Yu talk about the Chinese agricultural chemicals industry. I guess it's Li Jie is going to give the presentation on the food industry. And then from Xiaoming Bao from Dabei Nog, we're going to get an introduction to some of the things that Chinese agricultural biotechnology is starting to spread throughout the, in this case specifically Argentina, and get some sense of how this is going, and the role of possible future role of Chinese firms and Chinese public sector of providing useful technology to the rest of the world. So we then have some discussion starters by Keith Fugley and Wanming Shi, and then we hope to have 45 minutes or so to get your reaction to what we're working on, and to give us any ideas and suggestions about what we should be doing and how we could do these things better in the future. Okay, with that, I will stop sharing, and I will hand the presentation over to Haiyan Deng, who's just started a job as a professor at Beijing Institute of Technology. So if you can put up your
Okay.
PowerPoint.
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Prey. I will share my screen. Sorry. Can you see it? Yeah, okay. Thanks, Dr. Bray, organized this section, and I'm going to talk about the contribution of public and private R&D to agricultural productivity in China. Actually, because Dr. Bray has introduced something, so I will skip not all these slides and then give a brief results of my presentation. First, China has achieved impressive agricultural productivity over the last decades. The average productivity growth rate is over more than 2%, which doubled the world average. And meanwhile, China's public and private R&D in food and agriculture grew rapidly. And in 2007, the amount of private R&D surpassed the amount of public R&D. Actually, the Chinese government has implemented a series of policies to stimulate the private R&D. Later, my colleague will introduce more details. So, in my study, my research question is whether investment in public R&D really pay off for farmers in increasing agricultural productivity in China, and whether Chinese government policy to support private research and innovation are paying off with useful innovation for farmers, or just a simplified agribusiness. So based on this research question, we got the two objectives. The first one is capture the impact of public R&D and intention on productivity, and explore the contribution of private innovation on productivity. Although there are a body of study that has examined the impact of public R&D, this is the first paper that examined the contribution of private innovation to agricultural productivity in China. This is the theoretical model. And here we have different sources. One thing that I want to mention is that our public R&D here just include the funding of public research institute under the MOA. And one of the most important things to capture the impact of public R&D is to construct the public R&D stock variables. So numerous of studies that have employed different lag structure, and in our paper, we just employ the different shapes and different lag length and gestation to build our public R&D stock. And here's a provincial public R&D in China during 1985 to 2030. Some provinces such as Fujian, Jiangsu, and Zhejiang, they have a higher growth rate in public R&D, and some in some northeastern province like Heilongjiang, Jilin, they have much lower growth rate. And here is the number of public extension agents. Before 2000, there is an upward trend in the number of extension agents. After that, the number of extension agents declined gradually. And here is the seed variety innovation. Dr. Frey has introduced it. Actually, the number of seed industry innovation registered by the public and private sector increased significantly, especially after 2000. And here's at the beginning, we planned to employ the private R&D to capture their impact on agricultural productivity. But due to the data limitation, we just employ the granted innovation pattern instead to capture their impact. So here, here we just present the food manufacturing industry and the pesticide industry. Based on these two figures, we could say that the number and share of private invention patterns significantly increase. Actually, we also have other industries in innovation numbers, and this innovation in machinery, livestock, fertilizer, and food processing industry, they have the similar trait. So here is my major results of impact of agricultural R&D and innovation on productivity. Based on this table, we could say that the public R&D, public extension, and farmers' education have significantly positive impact on their productivity. And the seed industry, the seed variety registered by public and private sector jointly have significant and positive impact on their productivity. In terms of the private innovation, as I just mentioned, we employ the different industries in innovation, but here have an input industry innovation. We just aggregate the pesticide, livestock, chemical and machinery together. We could say that the input industries innovation also have positive and significant impact on their productivity. And specifically, the pesticide and the food processing industry have positive impact on their productivity, while the food manufacturing industry have negative impact on productivity. And since when we do the regression, some of the variables use the form of log, some of we just use a number. So in order to compare the impact, the elasticity of different, the impact of different variables, we calculate the different variables elasticity. And here we could say the elasticity of different variables. Based on this table, we could say that the public R&D and the public extension and the other variables, when we exclude the private innovation in the regression model, we could say that we will overestimate the elasticity of public R&D. And the other things that, the elasticity of public R&D and public extension is much higher than private in industries innovation. So we get these 2 points. If we ignore the private R&D, we will overestimate the contribution of public sector to productivity. The second one is private innovation plays a relative smaller role than public R&D in improving agricultural productivity. After we get the elasticity of public R&D and the public extension, the other things that we want to calculate the rate of return. So when we calculate the IRR, we need the public R&D and the extension expenditure. But in our previous regression, we just employed the number of extension agents. So we employ the total salary of extension agents as the extension expenditure. We got this results. Actually, the results is very similar. But here I just want to mention one different thing. The elasticity, when we employ the extension agent salary as the extension expenditure, we found the elasticity of public extension is becomes smaller based on these 2 tables. But the elasticity of public R&D didn't change much. When we get the elasticity, we calculate the IRR, and the average IRR of public R&D is 24%, and this is the different provinces IRR. We show this. We just made this map. Based on this map, we could say that the IRR of Eastern Province have higher IRR than the than the Western province. Then it's the IRR of public extension. The average of public extension is more than 100%. We also get the map. You know, has a similar trade to the IRR of public R&D. The Eastern province have a much higher IRR than the Western provinces. One thing that's sorry.
Can you finish up in just a minute or two?
Yeah. And you know, and we get the conclusion. Oh. The public R&D, public agricultural R&D, public extension, and farmer education have made major contribution to productivity growth. The second one is innovation in pesticide industry and the seed variety registered by public and private sector jointly have statistically significant and positive impact on productivity. And the third one is private innovation has played a smaller role than public R&D, but ignore to include it will overestimate the contribution of public R&D. The fourth one is the IRR of public R&D is 24%, while the IRR of agricultural extension is more than 100%. Okay, thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. So our next speaker is going to be...
could you please stop your sharing?
Oh, yeah.
Our next speaker is going to be Dr. Yanhong Jin, who's a professor at Rutgers University.
Can you see my slides, Dr. Prey?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So what I'm going to talk today is, first I will give an overview of industry studies we did for 3 different sectors. And then I will talk about the findings for agricultural machinery. So I would, like Dr. Prey, I would like to thank Dr. Hallwell at Arizona State University. He gave us the data, shared the data with us, and we are able to do those industry studies. So Haye just talked about how public R&D and private R&D affect agriculture productivity. So essentially, we have this flow chart, right? Public research innovation and agriculture extension, and also private R&D research, how this affects agriculture productivity. And for industry studies, we would like to focus on this flow chart. So basically, in agriculture industry has private R&D research, and also this will affect innovation. Public research innovation also affect private R&D research and innovation, and this will both research and innovation will affect productivity. And on the other hand, we also have different policies, either industry policy, production subsidy, farm subsidy, etc. So all those public policy will affect the R&D investment, innovation, and productivity. So essentially, there's 2 questions we are going to ask for the industry studies. The first question is, what are the relationship between the 3 components for the private agriculture industry? R&D investment, innovation, productivity. The second one we would like to examine is how this public policies, public R&D research have impact on those relationships. All right, so we have three industry. One is on agricultural machinery, and the second one is on agriculture chemical, and then food industry. So we are go with this flow. So all the PowerPoint presentation and videos are already posted on the website. I'm sure all the attendees already received the link, and we should send out a link a couple of times, and please excuse us. All right, so in terms of methodology we use for industry study, we use the CDM model. Basically, there are 3 stages. In the first stage, we estimate the R&D investment. So we have two equations to estimate. One is whether to have R&D investment. The second one is how much to invest. So basically, we look at R&D investment intensity. In the second stage, we focus on innovation outputs, and we have two measures. One is innovation patterns. The second one is share of the new product sales. In the third stage, we look at productivity. So we use, like Haye did, we use total factor productivity. So essentially, we would like to figure out all the relationships between the three different stages. And along that flow chart, we would like to focus on public policies for different industry. So those are equations I'm going to skip. Now, let me spend about 10 minutes talk about what we find for agricultural machinery, right? When we look at agricultural machinery, there are a couple interesting characteristics for this industry. First of all, if we look at concentration, and HHI is about above 500, which is not that high. However, the top 5 companies account almost 30% of the market share. And also, if we look at top 10 companies, 4 of them are either foreign owned or joint venture with foreign capital. We also observe that domestic leading companies actually start to or purchase foreign companies. For example, the YTO, which is a leading agriculture and construction machinery industry in China, purchased a French company. And for example, Fortunova, am I right? Fortunova, yes. Fortunova basically purchased 3 Italian companies. So we see lots of globalization trades in this industry. If we look at innovation, well, yes, there's a public R&D investment and also private investment. And the feature for public R&D investment for this particular industry is majority are institutional-based R&D research institutes. And for the private R&D investment, first of all, if a foreign company would like to get into China's market, they have to have joint venture, and one of the requirements, they have to have the technology transfer, right? So that will also boost the private R&D investment. Also, there's a reform of state-owned enterprises, and those reforms also have impact on this change from public R&D to private R&D. And another phenomenon we observe is domestic private manufacturing companies. They were not necessarily in the agricultural machinery, but they start to tap into this industry in the recent years. So since our second question focuses on government policy, so we would like to see what kind of government policy we are able to incorporate, we are able to examine their impact. So we kind of divided the government policy into supply side and demand side. All the policies we highlight in blue are something we incorporate to great extent in our model. So for example, the general policy for manufacturing industry production subsidy. We found a production subsidy, actually, it was the most efficient policy instrument for this agricultural machinery industry. And also China offers a rebate of the value-added tax. And there's economic developing zones which have been established at different levels, the national level, prudential level, provincial level. So those economic zones could have favorable policy to the firms, to the companies within the zone. And special policy for agricultural machinery, there's a subsidy, there's also public research. And on the demand side, and I would like to mention one particular special policy for agricultural machinery. Chinese government at different level, the national or provincial level, provides purchase subsidy for farmers to buy agricultural machinery. So this is basically boosted the demand for agricultural machinery, as well as we see impact in productivity. So data source, and the first data source is firm level and from annual report of industry firms. And thanks to Dr. Hall to share the data with us. And for patent data, innovation patent data from the State Intellectual Property Office. We also created some important variable based on agricultural technology statistics, summary statistics of agricultural mechanization in China. So now let's take a look at what we found for this study for agricultural machinery industry. First of all, we find that a private R&D investment, which is something we estimate in the first stage, and then we would like to see how this affects the innovation and public and productivity in second and third stage. And we find that private R&D intensity has a positive impact on innovation, both measured by the probability of applying new patterns increased by 20 percentage points. We also see that this private R&D intensity increased the share of the new product sales by 19 percentage points. And we also find that private R&D intensity have a positive effect on productivity of agricultural machinery firms. However, the linkage between second stage and third stage, we did not find innovation has statistically impact on productivity. So, but we should interpret these results with cautions because we did not include all the components of innovation. And two measures of innovation we used is new product sales and the patents, right? So we did not include institutional innovation. We did not include innovation at the retail, at the marketing sector, etc. And also maybe it takes time to have the impact on productivity. So that's the second part. The second component of the results is impact of public R&D. We use two measures. One is number of public institutes, because we find a public R&D for agricultural machinery, majority are institutional based, right? Second, we look at funding to public R&D research in this industry. So what we found is number of public institutes have a positive impact on R&D investment decision. However, it does not have any statistical effect on R&D intensity. All right. The number of public institutes also have positive effect on innovation, and funding to public institutes has negative impact on innovation. So we kind of have mixed results. We kind of have mixed results in terms of how public R&D affects private R&D and innovation for agricultural machinery industry. And also we found a public R&D investment has negative impact on TFP. So this the mixed results also give some reason to see how are we going to reform those public R&D research institute for the agricultural machinery. And public subsidy, which government subsidy for production, which is found to be the most effective instrument, policy instruments, it not only increase R&D investment, also improve innovation and productivity. So it seems like one stone could kill multiple birds in this case for this particular industry, but we did not find such results for other industries. For other industries, in other our colleagues will present later. Then regarding the purchase subsidy, which is a subsidy to the farmers to purchase agricultural machinery from different levels, from provincial, from the national level. And really the results shows really depends where you got to purchase subsidy. And I think this matters in terms of how much purchase subsidy you actually have. So we find a purchase subsidy increase new product sales, and this could be driven by the relative price. And we also find a purchase subsidy increase productivity, which could be driven by the demand for agricultural machinery, and they are able to do scale of economy of scale. And then in terms of economic and developing zones, and as I said, there's a different levels, national level and the local level, right? So we find if a firm is in the national level, economic and development zones, it tend to have higher in R&D investment intensity. However, it does not impact innovation. It does not impact TFP. So I think we need more data or more information to find out what kind of policy details or policy which are implemented in those economic and development zones. And I'm going to skip this side, maybe I should. So that another finding on the firm size capital intensity. And I would like to talk about capital intensity. In the data set from at firm level, there's a distinguish between intangible assets versus fixed assets. So intangible assets basically are a proxy for the knowledge stock. So we find intangible assets increase R&D investment, also improve innovation. And fixed assets is more like capital investment. So we find the fixed assets improve productivity. And for firm size, we find inverse U-shaped effects on all those three stages: investment, innovation, and productivity. In terms of ownership structure, which is also linked to the reform of ownership, reform of the state-owned. And it's kind of interesting if we look at a foreign capital, right? So we have 100% foreign-owned company, which reduce R&D intensity. That could be partially explained by lack of intellectual property protection. However, if we have foreign joint venture, the joint venture with foreign stock, it have increased, it have positive effects on the R&D investment decision. So that could be partially explained by the requirements of the technology transfer when you form the foreign joint venture. And for the foreign capital, 100% foreign capital for 100% foreign firms, the productivity is higher. If we look at a state capital, the state-owned capital, so we find 100% SOEs, state-owned companies, are less likely to invest in R&D investment and also have lower TFP, which kind of meet our consistent with what we expect. However, if a joint venture with foreign capital and we find the innovation level is higher, that could be, this is particular for this industry, I guess. So that could be how the technology transfer, how the R&D actually transfer from public to the private sector. So to have a little summary, and I'm almost done. So we look at the three different stages, and we find the policy, public R&D research or public R&D investment have impact on private sector for investment, innovation, public and productivity. National economic public subsidy is one of the most important instruments for this. All the question we raised. Economic zone is we need to look at which level, and we have mixed results for joint different ownership structure. So which means somehow, somewhere we need to have a caution in terms of the privatization of the public research institute for this particular industry. So Carl, I'm going to stop sharing and give the stage to the next speaker.
I think we'll have Chengxin next. Chengxin Yu is a PhD student at Beijing Institute of Technology, and this work is part of her thesis work, right?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My topic is Impact of Government Policies on R&D Investment, Innovation, and Productivity, Evidence from the Chinese Agrochemical Firms. The research objectives are in investigating the relationship among R&D investment, innovation output, and productivity among Chinese agrochemical firms, and exploring the impact of government policies on Chinese agrochemical firms' R&D investment, innovation output, and productivity. Chinese agrochemical industry, including pesticide and fertilizer industry, has made an important contribution to the growth of Chinese agricultural productivity and plays a vital role in the global agrochemical market. For example, nearly 70% of pesticide in the global market were produced in China, and over 1/3 of its output are exported to over 160 countries and regions. 25% of fertilizer in the global market were produced in China, and 10% of fertilizer exports in the global market are provided by China in 2017. Although Chinese agrochemical industry has played an important role in China's agriculture as well as in the global markets, they are confronted with a great deal of challenges. As we can see in the table 1, Chinese agrochemical firms' market share and net profit margin are far lower than that of multinational companies. One of the largest gaps between them is products lacking of technology innovation. Studies show that most of Chinese agrochemical firms' products are imitations and are patented by foreign firms. And the main reason for Chinese agrochemical firms' lack of innovative technology may be the low investment in R&D, which is shown in the table 2. In order to improve Chinese agrochemical industry's innovation capacity, the government has implemented a series of policies to stimulate them to innovation and transfer research achievements from public sector. The first one is public sector's research. For example, China established 2 pesticide engineering centers, one in the north and the other in the south in the 1990s. We used the number of public sector patent applications by province as a proxy variable for public sector's research. And the intellectual property protection. We measured the IPR as 1 minus the ratio of number of patents infringements to the total number of cumulated patents by province. And the government subsidies. There are many kinds of government subsidies, such as innovation subsidies, production subsidies. In this study, the subsidy means production subsidies. And China started privatization, the ownership reform, transforming SOEs into private companies starting from 1990s. This study also measures the difference in innovation between firms with different ownership structure. And encourage export, China adopted different policies to encourage exports from 2000, including tax deduction, access to soft laws, and priority access to land. And this study used the annual survey of industrial firms panel data collected by the National Bureau of Statistics of China from 2001 to 2007. The final database consists of 5,431 firms. And we employed the CDM model as mentioned by Professor Jin. Here is the specific equations and the results. First, we look at the summary statistics of key variables. The ratio of firms that invest in R&D slightly decreased during the period. Some scholars point out this might be due to the entrance of private small firms without R&D capacity into the sample. The R&D investment intensity and average number of patents owned by firms increased significantly, while the new product intensity didn't change much. Firm productivity increased slightly during the time, and And as mentioned above, the government have invested in public sector R&D of pesticide and fertilizers. The number of public institutions' patents increased from 2001 to 2007. The degree of IPR reached a local peak in 2001 and was strengthened from 2002 to 2007. Due to the ownership reform, the share of SOEs decreased, while the share of private firms increased. The Chinese agrochemical industry includes pesticide and fertilizer industries. This table shows the difference of innovation activities between them. Although the number of fertilizer firms are almost triple of pesticide firms, the proportion of pesticide firms with R&D and R&D investment intensity are much higher than fertilizer firms. Correspondingly, pesticide firms apply more patents and develop more new products than fertilizer firms. Here's the estimation results. First, we look at the relationship of firms' R&D investment, innovation output, and productivity. Our results show that R&D investment intensity has significant effect on both patents and the sales share of new products. The sales share of new products have positive impact on firm TFP, but firm's patent application does not. The coefficient of patent in TFP model is not significant. The possible reason is that agrochemical patents applied by Chinese agrochemical firms are more on applied research, such as developing different applications based on non-active ingredients, rather than develop new technology, which often have little impact on a firm's productivity. Besides the relationship of firm R&D investment, innovation output, and productivity, another objective of this study is to examine the impact of government policy. Firstly, public patents have only positive impact on firms' patent application. Public agrochemical innovation is complementary to private innovation in China. As scholars point out, public innovation could reduce the cost of firms' investment by spillovers. The IPR protection has positive impact on agrochemical firms' R&D investment intensity and the patent application. It indicates that an environment with better IPR protection will lead to more R&D investment and a greater number of patents among agrochemical firms. And the production subsidies do not significantly influence firms' R&D, innovation output, and productivity. On the one hand, the production subsidies are targeted at firms' production level, so it's reasonable that it's not useful to stimulate firms' innovation. On the other hand, Mao and Xu noted that moderate subsidy intensity can stimulate firm innovation, while too high or too low subsidy intensity cannot. Based on our results, the subsidies intensity in Chinese agrochemical industry is less than the low limit of influencing firm innovation calculated by the scholars. And compared to the private firms, SOEs are less likely to invest in R&D, and the foreign-owned firms have higher sales share of new products and TFP than private firms. And firms having a greater export value had a higher R&D investment intensity, were more innovative, and have higher TFP. Some researchers argue that it's attributed to the export learning effect, which means firms could learn international experience and technologies in export, thus increase innovation and productivity. Another interesting issue is the difference of innovation activities and the productivities between pesticide and fertilizer industry. Compared with the fertilizer industry, R&D investment intensity of pesticide industry is higher. And here is the conclusions. First, firms that invest in R&D have more innovative outputs, while firms with more new products have higher productivity. And government policies such as public investment, IPR protection, ownership structure, and encouraging export have positive impact on innovation and productivity for Chinese agrochemical firms, and the corresponding policy implications are on the right. And that's all. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, Chongqing.
Thank you.
I think we will have Li Jie will be next. He'll talk about the food industry.
Okay, please wait a minute.
Li Jie is a PhD student at Beijing Institute of Technology.
Beijing Institute of Technology. I am a research assistant of Professor Huang Jikun in CCAP in Beijing University. And now I am pursuing my doctoral degree in technology of in Beijing Institute of Technology. And my tutor is Professor Hu Ruifa. And can you see my?
Yes, we can see it.
Oh,
yep,
okay.
That's good.
Okay. I just know that I would prepare a short memory, so I will introduce my paper briefly, and the whole video you can see on the web, I think.
Great. Yeah.
Okay. This is my title, and here is the contents of my paper, and I will follow this structure to introduce. And you know, food is the first thing for people. As China's economy grows, you know, people are not satisfied with not only being hungry, but raise a wide variety of food needs. Right now, China is promoting not wasting food. Despite food security is not a major issue in China now, but you can see how the government take this industry seriously, because China depended heavily on imports in food industry, while the trade between countries is not easy. So innovation is important. And while China's market economy is a little different from other countries, the government plays an important role in business decisions. It has introduced many strategies to encourage the development of this whole industry, but we don't know if this is good or bad to the development to the whole industry. So my introduction shows that the China's food industry is big, and its food production, its business income, and profit are all increasing these years, and it even ranked first in some year. A report on Chinese food industry this year says that, oh, okay, I already say this. And here is the reason why I want to study this because China's food industry is big, but it characterized by big but not strong. And this is the region because it depended heavily on imports since 2010, and it has a lower technical level and low added value. And the ratio of total output value of food industry and total output agricultural value is lower than developed countries. In this paper, I want to figure out two things. First, I want to pay attention to the relationships between R&D investment, innovation, and productivity in food industry. And second, I want to study the impact of public R&D, production subsidy, and other policies on innovation and productivity at the firm level. And here is the factors that I want to talk. The first is the public investment and government subsidy, and the other two policies are the ownership reform and the encourage export policies. Next, for PPT is are the brief introduction of these factors. And you can see that the public investment goes up like an exponential curve. And the figure 4 shows that the government subsidy doubled in 2007 than 2002. Okay, anyway, there are many studies on the relationship between companies' R&D activities and innovation performance, but there is a gap in empirical research on Chinese food industry. What's more, few researchers focus on the impact of government policy on R&D investment and innovation output. So I will try to fill this gap in this article. And data in my research only contains food processing and food manufacturing industry, because these two parts account for 70% of the whole food industry. And in order to maintain the consistency, this paper employs the data from 2001 to 2007. And here is the CDM model. And I will skip this part. Okay. There are 5 dependent variables. R&D engagement shows us if the firm have participated in R&D, and the value of R&D investment divided by industrial sales value represents its intensity. And
Li Jie, since these things are pretty much the same for all the industries, maybe we can skip this slide.
Okay. The table 2 to table 6 are descriptive results, and the table 2 is the overall picture, and the table 3 to table 6 are the different policies influence among the whole country, and as a food processing and food manufacturing. And table 7 is a regression result. And you can see from table 2 that compared to food processing, food manufacturing industry is more likely to engage in R&D events and has higher investment as well as higher innovation output, but it has much lower productivity. And the table 3 is about government subsidies. Firms receiving government subsidies has higher probability to invest in R&D and higher R&D investment intensity. It also has a higher level of innovation output and higher productivity. We can see from table 4 that compared to firms that don't export, those export-oriented firms invest more and get higher productivity. And from this slide, we can see that the difference of productivity between firms with majority state capital and minority state capital are not significant. And this is the impact of FDI, which is foreign capital on productivity in food industry, are not, we cannot see any difference. And here is the here's the regression result. The two coefficient on the top is significant and positive, which shows a positive relationship between R&D activities and innovation output. And R&D investment intensity can significantly improve the output sales of new products and then enhance the whole total factor productivity of firms. Secondly, public investment can stimulate food firms to carry out R&D investment, while it squeezes out the number of patents applied by private firms and didn't improve their productivity. This means that there's still a lot of inefficient government investment. Thirdly, we can see that subsidies has a positive effect on enterprise R&D innovation and improve their production efficiency. While the FDI's impact is not clear. And here the state capital has a worse performance. And in terms of ownership structure, private firms are more active and have higher level of innovation output. Also, our result confirms that the size and the age of they are counter variables and didn't show on the slide. So I will skip that two factors. Finally, compared with the food processing industries, R&D intensity and innovation output of manufacturing firms is higher, but the productivity is lower. And subsidy and FDI have a different impact of food manufacturing and food processing. That's all. Thank you for listening.
Great. Thanks very much, Lisa. Now that we've sort of exhaustively gone through all of these different industries, we're going to shift a bit and hear from Xiaoming about the work that his company is doing, because his company is one of the leading biotech companies, one of the leading private sector companies today in China, and they're moving technology to Argentina and elsewhere. So Xiaoming, could you unmute yourself and then go ahead?
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, fine. Great.
Yes, seems I'm in the wrong room.
No, not at all.
Okay, I just give a brief introduction of what work we have done at DBN BC, particularly the transgenic soybean trade in Argentina. Can you see all the screen, all the PPT?
Yeah.
Okay. Give a brief introduction about our small company. We formed in 2011. We're solely devoted to biotech trade development. We focus on two crops, corn and soybean. And also we are focused on two trade, herbicide tolerance, insect resistance. And we look for two major markets. In China, we filled the void of GM trade, particularly for corn and soybean. And in South America, we try to provide additional choice for soybean trade, in addition to multinational companies. I just give a brief logic why we want to develop soybean trade for Argentina. Argentina is the third largest soybean producer globally, and China is the biggest soybean importer from South America. And Argentina, I believe, has been an underserved market in soybean biotech trade per se. And South American soybean seed market is not highly consolidated like North America. Another good opportunity for us when we established the close collaboration with Bioceres, the best biotech company in Argentina. And also, I think we have developed the right strategy to meet Argentina's farmers' need. Our soybean trade development strategy for Argentina, we developed it into 4 different phases. And I guess most of the audience probably don't interested in this, so I just skipped this. And here's our current product pipeline. We have the first generation herbicide tolerance, which include glyphosate and glufosinate tolerant. This one we already obtained the cultivation permit in Argentina and also importation permit to China. So theoretically, we can commercialize it in Argentina, but also we're working on global deregulation, particularly European Union and Japan, South Korea, and some other Asian Pacific countries. And also we have 2 events that one is contain 1 mode of action for Lepidopteran, and another have 2 mode of action, and we have another soybean herbicide tolerance event in the pipeline, which is include for the herbicide. And here's our collaboration with the Bioceres in Argentina. We did a variety of the insects bioassay, herbicide evaluation, and yield trial, and also trait integration in preparation for the commercialization. And also we have the couple of the trait discovery project. We made a couple of the for you important assumptions. We believe the GM crop themselves will become the most difficult weeds to control. And the second one is resistant to Bt proteins will be developed in an accelerated speed. Another one is sucking insects, and the disease will be more prominent issues in the future. Therefore, we devoted most of our research to herbicide-tolerant trait discovery. Currently, we have ALS inhibitors, dicamba, HPPD, and we use other herbicides. And also, we are working hard on provide additional solutions for insect control, particularly sucking insects. Here. Sorry. A couple of some perspectives and challenges. The perspectives of participation will definitely benefit Argentina farmers. And the competitive landscape in terms of biotech trade will be different in the future. And we will continue to invest in Argentina. And some challenges, and particularly the regulatory cost and the time takes to obtain a global deregulation. Another thing, we spend a lot of time trying to work out a business model suitable for Argentina. We're a small company, but have big goals. We're open for collaboration. That's all. I will return the screen to Carl. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. I think at this point, what we'll do is we'll turn it over to our discussants and get their reaction to what they've heard today or what they've seen or whatever. And then we'll go ahead and open things up for questions. As you may have noticed in the chat, we've already got quite a few questions, and some of them have already been answered by our scholars. So, take a look at that. People can respond to that, or we'll wait and have in-person responses in just a couple of minutes. Keith, do you want to go ahead? Keith's from the Economic Research Service and is a leading scholar on productivity. Keith, go ahead.
Thanks, Carl. Well, this has been real interesting. I think what we have here is a really broad set of stimulating papers. And really they're, as I look at it, is going back to some of Carl's opening remarks, what these papers are really trying to ask is, China, we see very rapid rising research expenditures in food and agriculture. And how is that increase in R&D contributing to innovation and productivity in these industries and on farms? One of the really good things about what I've seen in this session is that these papers have really maintained the distinction between research that is ag-related and research that's food-related. And sometimes, that I think that is a really important distinction to be kept, and sometimes it's not in some of this work, because what we find in the United States, for example, is that on the private sector there's lots and lots of food R&D that doesn't really have much implication for the farm sector. That what's really important for the farm sector, it's what's going on in, of course, the public institutions, but in the private ag input companies like the machinery and pesticide and seed sectors. And so that's one really good thing I see in this work, is that really they're trying to sort out that distinction and seeing how those two different components of this R&D system are affecting productivity. And of course, then the other question that these papers are asking is, in the China context, how effective are really quite an extensive set of government industrial policies? How effective are those policies at stimulating private innovation and productivity growth? in egg and food industries. And then finally, and I found the last presentation to be really quite thought-provoking, is how is China's growing share of food and agricultural research, what does that mean for the rest of the world? In other words, do we see evidence of technology spillovers coming out of the growing capacity of research in China? Now, just a few additional comments on what I see coming out of this work in terms of what's influencing farm productivity. It looks like we continue to see strong evidence that public research and extension investments in China are contributing to the growth in farm productivity. I don't see as much convincing evidence that the growth in private R&D, either food or ag related, is having much impact so far on what's happening on farms. Except when there's sort of these joint public-private products coming out. That seems to, we see some impact on farm productivity there. But that says something to me about perhaps the quality of the private sector research. Maybe it's a very applied or imitative nature, that it's not really generating the kinds of innovations that will have much impact, at least so far, on what's happening on farms or even within those firms, their productivity or their profitability. The other interesting outcome I see coming out of some of the results presented today is very mixed evidence that the really extensive set of industrial policies that China has employed to stimulate private innovation, is having much impact. That there's sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Well, and that kind of information can be extremely helpful for governments, to help guide what kinds of policies are most effective as China is making this significant, say, transition from not only from sort of resource-led to productivity-led growth, but also from public sector to more of a joint public-private innovation system. So that's sort of my comments. I'd like to turn it back to you now, Carl. Thanks.
Okay, thanks very much. Why don't we go on to hear Guan Ming's